Sedans have long been replaced by SUVs as the family favourite, but they still hold their charms, especially for those drivers who are looking for something a bit more dynamic on the road. Enter the limited edition Volvo S60 Black Edition midsize sedan, which sees the return of a plug-in hybrid powertrain for Volvo's only sedan. And I've been family testing it to see just how practical a sedan is for the modern family. Stay watching to see what we've discovered. There are two variants for the S60, the mild hybrid Ultimate or the plug-in hybrid Black Edition, which is what our test model is. This is priced from $88,990 before on-roads, which positions it more towards the lower end of the market compared to its rivals. And you don't have to pay any extra for anything on this model, which is pretty rare for a luxury brand nowadays. This is really well specified. Feature highlights included heated and ventilated front seats, heated rear outboard seats, heated steering wheel, and beautiful Napa leather upholstery throughout. But the full details are in my written review at carsguide.com.au if you need more info. Sedans will always have a special place in my heart, and the S60 totally nails the design. The shape is handsome and sleek and manages to look both aggressive and elegant. But it only comes in black for this edition, so if that's not your favorite color, you're out of luck. There's been no changes to the interior for the 2025 model, and in fact it looks like Volvo is streamlining most of its interiors to look the same. I mean, you could find this dashboard on pretty much any other Volvo car, which is fine because the dashboard looks gorgeous and there's heaps of soft touch points and high quality materials used, but it would have been nice to see a little point of difference. The cabin up front feels really spacious for my 168cm height, and the comfort of these front seats cannot be understated. You get lumbar and side bolster adjustments, 2-position memory functions, and extendable under thigh supports. You also get those additional comforts that I mentioned earlier in the heat and ventilation functions. Individual storage isn't as great as I was hoping. This middle console is very shallow and doesn't even fit my iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is a problem because it has wired Apple CarPlay. So I just felt like it was quite a messy cabin. My stuff either has to be in the cup holders or on the front seat beside me. This also has a whiplash injury protection system, which if you get hit from behind, the back and headrest will move with you to protect you from further injury. I also really like that it has a programmable spare key, perfect for when you have a teenager borrowing your car because you can limit the audible and speed limits in this. And it's bright orange, so there's no whoops mum, I took the wrong key. The dashboard is headlined by a 9-inch touchscreen multimedia system and a 12-inch digital instrument cluster. I also like that there are some other focal points like the panoramic sunroof and extra large air vents because it just adds some interest overall. It's a really pleasant interior, but maybe not as fun as some of its rivals. The multimedia system is very easy to use and is powered by Android Automotive, but curiously you don't get Android Auto in this, but you do get a whole bunch of apps like Google Maps and Spotify. You also get a head-up display, and the digital instrument cluster looks really high-end with its graphics. I also like that the sat-nav directions are displayed here, which is always handy. Charging options are good with 2 USB-C ports and a 12-volt socket, but you do miss out on a wireless charging pad. Because of the sloping roofline, it can be a little bit awkward to get in and out of this back seat if you're tall. But once you're in, you have plenty of room, especially behind my driving position. I also like how the outboard seats really hug you so you don't move around in corners, but there is a massive hump in front of this middle seat, so I would reserve this seat just for kids. This row gets 2 USB-C ports, pillar-mounted directional air vents, as well as heat functions for the outboard seats. I also love the practicality of having a hardened kick plate, especially when you have a wildling like I do. This row gets much better individual storage. You get 2 net map pockets, as well as 2 retractable cup holders in the fold-down armrest and a single bottle holder in each storage bin. I also like how the door handles have a little storage cubby too. There's ISOFIX child seat mounts on the outboard seats plus 3 top tethers. I think you would be doing very well to get 3 child seats back here. 2 are definitely going to fit best, and I had no issues fitting my monster booster seat this week. The boot space of the S60 is a little bit less than some of its rivals at 427 litres, but it was perfectly sized for my grocery run and errands this week. I like that it's also not too deep, so you can grab things that do slide to the back, and the aperture is quite wide. It's not a narrow opening, which is great. I also like how you can tuck away the cable for home charging in a handy little bag out of the way. You get a tyre mobility kit underneath the floor, and this does have a powered tailgate with a kick function, but there's no electric button up here. And I did find that a little bit annoying because the kick function didn't always work to close it. It's not a heavy lid though, so it's not something to split hairs over. The S60 Recharge Black Edition's plug-in hybrid powertrain features a 2-litre turbo-petrol 4-cylinder engine and an electric motor that combine to produce 340 kilowatts of power and 709 newton-meters of torque, which then supports a 0 to 100 kilometer sprint time of just 4.5 seconds. So it has some serious kick, and the 8-speed auto transmission is smooth as silk. I think a lot of people, when they think of Volvo, they think it's going to be a stately and boring driving experience. But I promise you, if you get in behind the wheel of this thing, it's going to change your mind. The power this thing has is awesome, and the power delivery feels effortless. And honestly, the pickup is going to blow your hair back. The firm suspension and steering provides great road feedback and very dynamic handling. And despite the suspension being firm, you're not bothered by potholes. The cabin ride comfort is really high. And the cabin refinement feels high as well, because you don't really get any noise in this. Even at higher speeds, the wind noise is pretty low. You do feel quite low when you're sitting next to a big SUV at traffic lights, but visibility on a whole is really good. And I like that the windows feel wide and the pillars pretty narrow, which is good. Because this does sit quite low, I was quite nervous about scraping the bottom and the front of the nose. But the 360-degree view camera system does make pretty light work of any car space. I just would have preferred to have been able to see at the same time the reversing camera view and the 360-degree view. But it's not hard to flip between the two when you need to. The official combined fuel cycle figure is a very low 1.4 litres per 100 kilometres. I did a good mix of urban and open road driving this week, but did perform 2 fuel economy tests. On the first, I charged this car every day for 4 days, and my real world usage sat at 3.8 litres. On the second go, I only charged it once in 3 days, but I still got a very healthy 5.6 litres. Now, even if you don't dedicate yourself to the charging, the economy is pretty darn good, which I really liked. This has a Type 2 charging port, which is good for AC charging, but you can't plug it into a DC fast charger. You don't have to really worry though, because even on a standard domestic house socket, you can get the 19 kilowatt hour battery up from 0 to 100% in just 5 hours, which is really fast. I also like that you get up to 90 kilometers WLTP-rated pure electric driving range in this, which is also pretty good for a plug-in hybrid. The S60 Black Edition has just been launched, so it's not covered by its siblings' 5-star ANCAP safety rating from 2018, but it still has all the goodies you'd expect from a Volvo. Like their side impact protection system, which reinforces the car's steel framework at the sides and disperses energy in the event of a side collision. It also features a whiplash injury protection system, which means that the back and the headrests move on the front seats with the occupant in the event of being hit from behind, just to reduce injury. But the full specs are in my written review at carsguide.com.au if you need more info. The S60 comes with a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is a usual term for the class. You can pre-purchase either a 3 or 5-year servicing plan, and on the 5-year plan it costs a flat $3,000, or an average of $600 per service, which is quite reasonable for the class. Servicing intervals sit at every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, whichever occurs first. The Volvo S60 Recharge Black Edition proves that sedans can still be sexy and an excellent family car, providing your family is small. I only have the one child, so this was perfect for my activities and gear this week. It's wonderful to drive and has a great specs list, but it's not without its quirks, so it gets an 8.3 out of 10 from me. My son thinks this is straight out of a Batman movie, and he had plenty of comfort in the back seat, so he gives it an 8 out of 10. If you're after more details, check out my written review at carsguide.com.au, and I'll see you next week.